Welcome back to the Idaho College and Career Readiness Summit, round 2. Hey, speaking of rounds, we probably should get an update on the leaderboard. I got to pull up my phone here and find out who is currently leading this. Mitzi Vesky, all the way up in Sandpoint, has 54,000 points, followed by Stevie Claxton and Liz Weldy in third there. So good luck out there, and you're killing it. Wow, I'm active in the app all the time and I only have 3,600 points. So I don't know how that's even possible, but kudos to you. So let's move into our next speaker and our next topic. And you all may be wondering why we have selected the topics we have. We have heard from many of you in that we are providing a lot of opportunities. We've become a lot more accepting of the various pathways, and we're working diligently to streamline those pathways that may not seem traditional at the moment. As I told some of you in one of the most recent AO trainings, Idaho leads as a state in the percentage of students taking dual credit in our public high schools. Yet our education beyond high school lingers. We're moving beyond a one-size-fits-all pathway, providing opportunities being available to students. As part of this, we felt as a group a real importance to dive into the intention and purpose, the why, as I mentioned earlier. So Dr. Mallon had explained purpose and why it's important. We're now going to hear from the famous JP Michelle to learn about the tactics and strategies and really focus in on finding meaning for students to help students find their drive and motivation. As a reminder, we will once again, after JP's keynote, provide you an opportunity to reflect and practice and implement the ideas that are discussed. We encourage you to set aside the time and be present with the ideas. So many times we have great ideas, we hear them, but yet we don't truly have the time to implement those and really discover the practicalities of what we heard. And so this playbook, that is the intention of that. JP's activities in the playbook can most definitely be done as a group, so feel free to join us after this discussion in one of the virtual rooms, and you'll have some colleagues to work through that playbook with. Some of you may know him from his TED Talk, The Challenge Mindset, helping youth find purpose, as we've highlighted this in our professional learning community. JP Michelle is the founder of SparkPath, a company that provides career tools to help students explore their future. I'm not sure if he realizes it yet, but he's also starting a national trend with the stylish glasses. Our group has enjoyed getting to work with JP and likely will continue. We're glad he's here, and hopefully you find information provided complimentary and further engaging in the developing of strategies for working with students. JP is joining us from Ottawa, Canada, so he can get you all caught up on the gossip from Canada after the presentation. JP, thank you for being here. The time is yours. 500 eyes are staring at you right now. Good luck.
Brock, your energy is a 10 out of 10, and you are way more stylish than I am with your glasses. Well done. I don't know why you took them off, man. You look fantastic. And I'm wondering if everyone is feeling just as energized with Brock. Would you mind if I took a pulse of the group? I know some of you are engaged in your own Zoom room. I know some of you are in a bigger room with a lot of other folks. Would you mind letting me know through the chat? Just send me a hello, a hi. How energized are you? Please write quickly before Mitzi or Fernando beat you to it. They type quickly, these folks. They're so fast. Look at that. Jennifer, Deb, Brooke, Kristen. Oh, you guys are quick too. I'm going to work to get you, okay, 8 out of 10. I'm going to work to get you some points on the leaderboard just for that Zoom. Hi, hello, howdy. Man, I love it. This is great. From Coeur d'Alene, from, how do you say that in English? Coeur d'Alene. Brock, translate.
Coeur d'Alene.
Coeur d'Alene. Great. I love it. Okay, good. Hey there, hi everyone. Okay, now I got Brock's energy. I have everybody else's energy. This is good. You guys have ham sandwiches, extras. Some people had tacos. This is great. I love the energy you're bringing today because I don't know how much energy your students are bringing to their year. I mean, they went through something difficult last year. So did you, to be fair. And I think they've lost a sense of what's important in school. I think they forgot that the world needs them. How many of your students know that, have heard that, remember that the world needs them? That's what I want to talk to you about today, is how you can bring that message to life, how it can benefit you, how it can benefit them, so that they have an amazing semester, an amazing year, an amazing career, and an amazing life. I'm going to share some slides with you today to operationalize that message. If you like following my slides, they're live on Google Slides right now. Just give me the link. I'll also be sharing my screen, so you're sure to have that as well. So let's jump right in. I want to see if this is working, if you see the same thing I'm seeing. The challenge mindset, preparing students for life, college, and career. These ideas that I'm sharing with you today, they come from the world of industrial organizational psychology. That is the study of work. And when I was working in this space, I was living in Pittsburgh. I lived there for 2 years working for a company called DDI, Development Dimensions International. And then I got to work with all these other organizations. I worked with some of the world's most loved companies, and I worked with some of the world's most, I should say, least loved companies. How's that? I learned a ton along the way, okay? And all the insights I got from those companies and those leaders, I used to create my own company called Spark Path. And it's those insights I want to share with you today so that informs your work. The way we're going to tackle this is I'm going to talk to you about a new approach to careers that's easy and engaging, that your students are going to like. It's going to be based on using challenges instead of job titles. And we're going to use that to transform your students, from students who don't know that the world needs them to students who believe, feel, and act on the fact that the world needs them. Let's start with the big issue. If you were to ask your students how many job titles they know, what would they say? In fact, if I were to ask you, what I mean by you is you, the expert, you, the person either in the career space, in the adjacent career space, how many job titles do you know? Brock, you ready to type? I need everyone's answers. I think we have like 90 people. What's your number? Can you throw it in the chat? What I'm asking you is firefighter, police officer, lawyer, doctor, plumber. How many of those job titles do you know? Do you know 10? Do you know 50? Do you know 100? Let's get a sense of what people know. Debbie started with 55,000. Debbie, why did the smartest person in the room have to go first and intimidate everyone else? That's okay, Debbie. I'm with you. Thanks for being first, by the way. For Chelsea, it's more like a few hundred. And then everyone's saying 250, 75. I love that you're guessing, right? It's like if we sat down together, what's the number we would come to? Liz has the perfect 1233. That's wonderful. 500, 400, 300. What about everyone else? Are you higher or lower than that? Okay, Debbie, you know why you did that? Because you know exactly where I'm going, Debbie. That's why. Now, the next question, the one that Debbie guessed, is how many job titles are there out there? She said 55,000, by the way. Do you think that there are, Mindy says 10,000. Lower, millions, says Ashley. Unlimited, people are creating their own way. Zillion. Okay, you guys know exactly where I'm going with this. Okay, you guessed ahead. In my research, I saw there are at least 20,000. Okay, so let's just use that as a starting point. Everything else you said is valid too, but what did we just identify? A huge gap, a tremendous gap between what our students know and what's out there. This is a humongous obstacle for us to do great career development work, because if we use job titles as the heart of career development, which it has been for a very long time, we run into these issues. Number one, there's too many to keep track of. We cannot even pretend to make people learn the dictionary of job titles. The ones that students do know, they focus on prestige, salary. It's really fun to tell your uncle at Christmas that you want to be a doctor. Everyone at the dinner table is going to look at you and smile. They're so proud of you. That's so prestigious, right? But not everyone's going to be a doctor, right? Students know jobs that are on TV and movies. And a lot of you already said, wait a minute, these job titles are changing all the time. Some don't even exist yet. When I was consulting with human resources organizations, they were struggling to write job descriptions. They were struggling to write job titles. Tell me why. Why were those human resources teams, they're bright people, why were they struggling to write job titles and job descriptions? Give me a sense of that, please. Mitzi says new ones are being created daily. That's right. How come? Mitzi, is related to my question is why are they being created daily? To make them appealing, understandable, yeah, to sell them to the outside. Kristen, you're right. What else? Companies needs change with society. Cheryl told us the answer. Society's changing, the world's changing, technology's changing. These companies are changing. What happens internally changes. Okay. I heard this, I've seen this anecdotally in my work. I've heard this from Josh Burson, a HR leader for decades, who says when he consults with pharmaceutical companies, they don't really bother with finding the right person for the right job because that person should stay long enough at the company that they'll take on several jobs. That even changes how they hire. Actually, you got it too. Exactly. So how do we prepare students for a world like this? Liz, COVID is just one example. You're right. COVID, what's going to be the game changer in 2023? You and I don't know. Even Brock, who has really sharp looking glasses, he doesn't know what's going to happen in 2023. And the peak earning years of the students that you're working with, when's that? 2060, 2070? Jackie in Boise, what can you tell me about the world in the year 2070? I don't know, Jackie, it's hard to say. If we were to pretend like we knew, we'd be overstepping. So again, my question for you is, how do you prepare students for a future like that? I'll give you one option. Don't prepare them at all. That's something some people are choosing, right? You can't prepare for what you don't know. I completely disagree. I think there is something you can do. There's an easy way for them to help understand what's going on and the changes and adapt to them along the way. Let's start off with a little bite that your students will be able to chew. Instead of having them explore job titles, let's show them challenges, problems, and opportunities they can work on. What are some challenges to solve? Well, how do we clean our oceans? How do we promote water rights? How do we celebrate different cultures? These are big issues that we can work on. There's local issues too, like how do we improve our park down the street? How do we build furniture that lasts? How do we encourage voter participation? There's so many challenges to work on. I want to know which challenges you care about. So play this game with me. Which challenge would you rather work on? Invent new biotechnology or promote healthy living? Can you tell me in the chat? I'd love to kind of see the most popular one. What would you rather do? Would you rather promote healthy living or invent new biotech? I'm going to look to see if I can follow the chat. Wow, great answers. Love it. It's a dominating vote, by the way. Did any of you see a vote for new biotech? Is it okay? Lisa said could be both. Danny, you caught on the verb. That's great. Oh, Tia, finally, Tia. Thank God. Biotech. Okay. Oh, Kristen is with you as well. Steve. Oh, you guys just waited. Okay, great. You guys are all together. Great. Well done, Shania as well. Lisa. Let me see the connection. Chelsea's kind of self-assessing. This is interesting. Okay. I'd love to have one volunteer. You're going to have to be courageous. I would love for you to click unmute. You're going to tell me why you picked that challenge. Why does it speak to you? Can anyone do that? I know it's complicated at our sites for you to do that, but sometimes I see people, they just run to the computer and they share. I've got a volunteer. Who's first?
I'll share.
Thank you.
So I personally looked at it for me personally, which one would I want to be involved in? And would I be helpful being involved in? So I've never been a big science person. I'm all for it, but I want somebody else to do it because it's not my strength. So out of those two, I was looking at which one did I think would be my strength that I could help with. So that's why I picked the healthy living.
Fantastic, Chelsea. Thanks for volunteering. Thanks for sharing that. And then to all the people on the call, you are trained listeners, right? Aren't you? Aren't you trained listeners as compared with the average educator? It's more important to you. You listen more. So what did you hear in what Chelsea said? When someone talks about the challenge they chose, you can hear so much. You can hear about their values. I heard her self-assessment. There's part of her skills, her preferences, her interests. We're going to keep playing, and we might hear about people's systems of beliefs. We might hear about their past trauma, past experiences. We might hear about their strengths. There are so many things you can learn about someone based on the challenge that they pick. It's really a window into who they are if you make the time to listen. Of course, this is not the ideal platform to do it right in front of everyone. So thanks, Chelsea, for having courage. But this is what can happen when you listen to someone's choice about their challenge. You hear meaning and purpose, which is what we talked about with Heather today. Okay, let's play again. I like that game. By the way, it's called the Challenge Face-Off. Round 1 is over. Promote Healthy Living won by a resounding score. I'm a big March Madness basketball guy, so this is like first round of the Sweet 16. We're not going to play. There's not 64 teams today, but we're going to do at least one more round, okay? Again, I need your votes. What would you rather do? Improve mental health or design the future of transportation? The people who voted already, can you tell that they're using their intuition? Right? They're going with their gut, and I celebrate that. I really like that. There is not enough intuition being used in career work today. You need both, right? You need analytical thinking, but we want to go get that intuition because you tap into something really deep. Mental health. Wow, look at that. Okay, I'm waiting for my one transportation. Jennifer, thank you. All right, Kristen. So I don't know if this is a hard ask, but can someone, yeah, you tell me if this is too hard of an ask and I'll open it up. But for now, my ask is someone who chose design the future of transportation, recognizing that the votes are against you. What would you say for why you chose your challenge that might convince someone to come over to your side that make the same choice as you? Would someone be willing to unmute themselves and say why they picked design the future of transportation? Shania, Terry, Liz. I'm not going to put you on the spot like to ask you specifically, but if you're up for it, I'd love to hear.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. I chose transportation is because it's something that makes us all stressful and anxious, and we've been doing the same thing since Roman times, so it's time for something new.
Time for something new. So good call out on the pain that people feel. Thank you. That was Terry, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Terry. That was great. So Terry calls out the pain. Like, what does that say about her? Like, is she an empathetic person? Like, is she someone who understands people, what people are going through? Is she tapping into her personal experiences? Like, all of those are valid and would form the basis of a really interesting line of thought to explore further, right? If she was thinking like, where do I want to go next? What do I want to do? So thank you for that. Hey, everyone, you just played the challenge face-off. It's a really simple activity. If you're doing this in the classroom, you could even ask your students to stand up and vote with their feet. Those of you who choose to improve mental health, go to this side. Those of you who design the future of transportation, go to this side. How come? Imagine the look on a young woman's face as her best friends go to the other side of the room instead of her. Wow, how come? What's going on? My friends want this, I want this. Oh my God, I need to choose my own things. It's really cool to see, I gotta tell you. It's really cool to see. It's a really cool experience. So that's the challenge face-off game. And I wanna ask you, this game, the challenge face-off, That's something you'd be willing to do, to experiment, to try in your classroom with challenges, problems, and opportunities that people would work on. I'll leave you to think about that because you actually have my slides. You can play this exact same game. You could play it with 4 challenges, 8 challenges. You could do this for 30 minutes, for an hour. And the responses you'll get from students are really powerful. And it's a great way to help them engage with challenges instead of job titles. And the message you can share with students at the end is that if they don't choose the challenges they want to work on, someone else will choose for them. I like to tell them twice. If you don't choose the challenges you want to work on, someone else will choose for you. Hey, I'm glad you decided to become an engineer. But what are you going to do when you graduate? Are you going to send your resume to 100 different companies and hope that someone hires you? That's what a lot of people do. What are the chances that those companies are aligned with your values? What are the chances they're working on the challenges that you care about? Imagine engaging with purpose really early on and evolving that and iterating that throughout your life instead of waiting at the last second when you're about to get a job and you're really vulnerable. Now, this idea is quite different than what we've traditionally done in schools, okay? Here's where students are comfortable. Maybe it's because it's what they've lived. We ask them, what's your favorite class? If they like math, we say, well, you should go to college. You should do accounting. That's a good degree. You can become an accountant, work for a firm of accountants. And eventually you discover what's an accountant really about. Like, what are they working on? What are the challenges they solve? Maybe they help companies pay as little amount of tax as possible. And maybe you hate that. Or maybe you love it. You don't know. It took so long to get there. Don't you know someone, a neighbor, a family member, like they got there and they're like, no, it's not it at all. What if you flipped it? What if you started with challenges first? Help young people discover inspiring challenges to work on, problems in the world, things to fix. Then look at, well, who's doing it now? Which companies, who works there? What jobs do they have? What did they have to learn to be able to do that? Then all of a sudden, you can connect it to their day-to-day lives. I hate going to English class. Okay, how come? A lot of them don't know why they're there. What if your English class was giving you stronger communication skills so that when it's time for you to redesign the future of transportation, you can communicate effectively with all the different stakeholders, all the different people that are involved in working on that project? That's why you can go level up in your English class. Now, all of a sudden, what you have is a cross-curricular tool, the challenge mindset. The first week of math class can be about, well, what are the challenges that exist in the world related to math? And what are we going to learn that can help you work on those big challenges, the ones that you care about? Let me give you an example through Anna's story, and then I want to ask you how this resonates with you. Like, what do you think about this? So Anna was in high school. I was working with her. All I wanted to do was help her transform, shift from a job title mindset, which is all about like picking one thing, to the challenge mindset. So I asked her, what are the challenges and opportunities in the world? Gave her a copy of a magazine. She picked this article about a specialized algae that's being used to clean polluted waterways after oil spills. What a great challenge to solve. You know, she got to pick, by the way. This speaks to her. What are the companies that work on that? Who works there? What did they have to learn to be able to do that? And then what are the actual things I want to learn? So what we found out is that so many people had studied material science and engineering at this company. I didn't know this degree. She didn't, but we discovered it through the challenge mindset. And I'm just reading Mindy's comment, who had a similar experience. 2 seniors said they thought speech class was stupid. I referred them to an article about the 8 top attributes of successful people. Being able to publicly speak was one of them. I like that, Mindy, especially if they said they want to be a successful person, right? Because in this approach, the students tell you what they want. And that's the hardest part of all of this, like helping people find what they want, like choosing a challenge to work on. That's really hard. But if you could do that easily in a fun way, then you have a lot of data to work with. You have a lot of ammo for yourself, because you can say, oh, you said you want this. This will help you get this, right? And that's a really powerful way of looking at it. For Anna, she said, I'm going to research being an engineer. Like, what are the paths available to me? She's like, this looks cool. I like the opportunities for women in engineering. This speaks to me. And so she decided to do it. She went to Penn State, did material science and engineering. This is a picture of her in the lab working. So short term, it helped because she got real labor market information about a problem to solve. It helped her pick her college degree, her major. But more importantly, Anna has a new way of looking at her life. Like, this is a shift forever, because now she's always looking at challenges, problems, and opportunities to work on. She'll change, obviously, between now and the year 2060. And she'll have a way of looking at that, of thinking of that, that's way more effective than just switching jobs. For some people that aren't Anna, it might be something else, right? It could be, I want to make something that matters with my hands. I want to use big machines. And maybe they're going to work for a company like Boeing. They make jets, and they want to be an aircraft technician. And there's a community college program with an apprenticeship, and sign me up. That's what I want to do. So it depends on the person. Here in Canada, it's a really important day today. September 30th is the Canadian National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. This is a day that honors lost Indigenous children and survivors of residential schools, their families and communities. It's about their experiences. And as a country, there are so many challenges and problems and opportunities related to this, not just in education, in infrastructure. So a lot of teachers are using the challenge mindset with current events, for example, because they can talk about this with students, and students are aware of this, they're participating, and they can say, well, what part of this do you want to work on? How do you want to help? How do you want to serve? And I actually included more information about this day and some educational materials in the notes of this if you're interested in exploring more. So we've just talked about the challenge mindset, the way of looking at the world, the way of looking at education. I'd love to know how you think this would help your students. Can you take a second to reflect on that? I'm actually going to give you a minute to do this, or a couple minutes if you need it. This is the first question in your playbook. So some of you might actually want to write this down in your playbook. And again, I'll ask for a volunteer, because when you share what you learned or what you got out of it, it typically helps someone else who might not have thought of that. So let's really take the time to do this. I'm actually going to look at the clock and give you some time to do this. And then once you have an answer that you're satisfied with, please share it in the chat, and we'll try to highlight a few of those. So thank you. I'll give you a minute to do that now. So it's been about a minute, but just take another one just to wrap up. And once you've done that, obviously you can go back and do this in more detail, but just your initial first thoughts, your instinct. And then if some people would like to share, I'd love to see some of your answers. Okay, lovely. So I'm going to start with Ashley. Thanks for your comment. Engagement, increased interaction, increased personal meaning, resulting in more meaningful decision-making. Love it. Alex, this really connects to our previous session on purpose. I think this is an excellent method to discover and develop purpose in students. Yeah, it's great. You know, I love how Jackie, Brock, and Danielle connected Heather and I. They said, hey, you should know Heather. I knew about Heather's research center and Bill Damon's books, but I didn't know about Heather. So her and I met. She sent me a copy of her book, which was really nice about it. And there's so many great insights in here. And one of them that you may have seen this morning, and that I think you would know intuitively from your experience, is that we don't show up and ask students, what's your purpose? We know better than that. That's a hard question to answer. However, other people do, by the way. Their parents might ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? Their family might ask them, what's your passion? These are hard questions to answer. What I'm suggesting today is, what if you showed them a menu of challenges and then they got to pick themselves what challenges spoke to them? Isn't that an easier way to broach, this topic and to make it more accessible? So thanks for those first two comments, because you really saw the link between our two sessions, and I agree with you. So lots of great comments came in. Let me read a few more. Celestial, many of the students in my program serves may not have been exposed to careers or titles, but they have all faced challenges or heard about issues that they tackle at the global level. I think we could use this as a conversation starter. That's great. There are some great conversation starters that come from this. And then today, I also want to leave you with the depth that you need if you want to do this for an extended period of time. Some of the schools that I've worked with, they've just changed how they teach careers, and you can extend that over an entire semester. I just want to double down on the word that you use, is exposure. If you work with marginalized students, if you work with students who have come from generational trauma, difficult neighborhoods, any sort of meaningful obstacle, and I know you do, then right away we acknowledge that some of them have a lack of exposure. Let's call it exposure bias. So they haven't been exposed to a lot of stuff. They don't know 50 job titles, they know 7. So if we ask those students, tell me what you want to do based on what you already know, we're doubling down on the status quo. We're reinforcing where they already are. We don't want to do that. Education is the great equalizer. We want to broaden their horizons. And it's through this type of exposure about what is out there that we can do that. So this becomes a diversity, equity, and inclusion issue, right? It's about social justice. That's the impact of your work. You're doing social justice work at scale, which is really amazing that you get to do that. Chelsea, I think it will give the students a valid place to start in their exploration that will connect naturally with their purpose and passion, instead of just identifying a job title that they might actually know little about. One of the first students I worked with wanted to do business law. I said, okay, great, like a place to start, right? So I said, what's business law? He said, it's law about business. I said, okay, well, we got some work to do. We got to get some more depth behind that, right? Rebecca, helps them follow their passions and what's important to them. It's hard to tap into that, but this definitely is a good start. Students may know the job titles, but they don't really know what the job entails. That's exactly it. I've heard students say they want to be a doctor, but that they hate science. Ooh, tough. Starting with the challenge may help them get a job that they're actually interested in. Great. Challenge mindset pushes students to value their values and passions and interests, gives them true ownership over their future and really themselves as a whole confidence builder. I like the confidence aspect you brought to this, because I think you get a sense of confidence when you have agency in the world, right? Self-efficacy or agency. There's a huge body of research behind that that says if you can impact the world in a positive way, you can see that potential, there's tons of benefits. I believe this would really reduce the stress that students feel to pick that one job they're going to do after high school. You're right. I think that when students hear, what do you want to be when you grow up? They hear you need to choose one thing forever. That's not what we meant, but that's what they heard, and that hurts. Anxiety, stress, pressure, you're right. Picking a challenge is much less demanding, more palatable, it results in more thought and exploration. You're right, and it can change. You can build upon the great work that you did working on this challenge use your transferable skills and leverage that to work on another related challenge or unrelated challenge. That's the benefit of a career that changes and evolves with the outside world and with your inside world. I love your insights. You guys really did a great job in your answers and your reflections. Thanks for taking the time to share them. So let's make this really applicable, because I guess this is, we saw kind of the theory behind the challenge mindset, and you shared the impact. So we talked about doing this, flipping the model. I suggest that students do this activity right away. So what do I mean by that? Well, what if you have a student that wants to help grow the food that we need? And this, I call this a challenge profile. And you've got an example in your workbook, by the way. I think it's the same example. Who does that? Who grows the food that we need? Well, in Idaho, so here are some examples of companies: Chobani, McCain, Simplot. And if you wanted to, you could actually look at, well, who works there? Sometimes this information is on the company website. Sometimes you can look on a tool called linkedin.com. And we actually found people that work there that you can take a look at. And we looked at, well, what job titles do they have now? And by looking at their profiles, you can actually see their whole path, like what job titles did they have before? And then what did they have to learn to be able to do that? And that started giving tons of ideas and inspiration for students about the paths they can create for themselves. So this is one example of a challenge profile. Let's do another one. What if you want to create meaningful experiences for others? I think a lot of students will want to do that. You could do this in so many ways. You could do this as a lawyer who's really empathetic and wants to make a difficult experience for someone positive. You could do this in customer service, working in a restaurant. How would you go about finding companies that are working on these challenges? Anybody want to suggest something in the chat? How do you actually find companies that are working on these challenges? Where would you look? How would you do it? Would you do it online, offline? I'd love to hear someone's suggestions. And feel free to take a guess. You might not know, I don't know if I have a right answer here. Maybe I'm just looking for your ideas as well. I'll definitely tell you some of the ways that I've tried that have worked well and some ways that haven't worked well, but please feel free to take a guess. Yeah, Chelsea, you thought about a tool called the challenge cards. It's great. Brooke, you could actually reach out to the company. Chelsea, your first idea was Googling, which I really like. We'll talk about that in a second. Carrie thought about using a work-based learning program that might already have companies, I'm guessing. Liz, you can actually look at the company's values, what they care about. Very good. Lindsay, Google knows everything. Yeah, we'll give some examples. Danny, just Google what company solves X challenge. That's very similar to how I do it, Danny. The thing is that you know that, Danny, but your students don't. That's my assumption. You can tell me otherwise, but this is something that you can share with them that they'll really like seeing in action. So what does that mean? You can Google companies that increase sustainable energy. Boom. And then you see what comes up. Mission statement, the purpose, ask a trusted teacher or mentor or coach. Okay, so Liz adds some nuance, because I will say that sometimes by talking to a trusted teacher, mentor, or coach, you'll find things that you wouldn't find on Google, just in relation to this. Okay, you'll find companies that do this, but they call it something different. So Liz, your idea really works. Natalie says, go explore internships, job Saturn, online Google Glass. Okay, great. I love your ideas that you've shared so far. Natasha, informational interviewing, job shadowing, very well. So I should tell you that I did online research, right? Just for these examples, do you want to work for state parks? Here's a company called IndieDwell, Black Box. These are organizations, that may be close to your students that make them feel like, oh, well, this is close to me. I could work here. I can see myself working here. Here's some people that work here. Here's what they're doing. Here's what they had to learn to be able to do that. And Brock goes back to this big mission of saying, can we find a high school credential for everyone? We're not talking about college for all. we're talking about some sort of step that can prepare students. Well, it would help if we could at least tell students why. Like, why would you do something after high school? Oh, to help you contribute more to the challenge you care about. If you contribute more, you're more likely to get hired. And I really like that talk track because I find it resonates with students. Ashley's adding Googling potential industries that work towards X challenge. That's great. Then by using platforms like LinkedIn, you can begin searching for specific industries and seeing companies that answer challenge and explore companies that are categorized that way. That's good. So there's a couple people here that you may have done this before. Please keep that in mind as we're doing this activity. When we'll go out to the breakout rooms to do this, to do the activity in the next step, you may need to use your skills to complete your own challenge profile. But I'm going to ask you to go further. Can you help others who haven't used this tool in this way to be able to use that information? So you may do a little bit of sharing here with others who are doing this for the first time. So I'd love for you to be able to do that. I think that's going to help others a lot. Liz suggests another tool called Handshake and LinkedIn, and looking at the information there. So you're all set. You're well off, and there's a few people who might be able to lead you with ideas how to research. And when you do build your challenge profile, it's great if you do this alongside students, because just by researching for them, you'll kind of see how this works. So I like the idea. A lot of educators build challenge profiles like the one we saw alongside students. Some educators do this and they ask them to work in teams. Like, let's say, okay, well, we're going to start with Dana. Okay, all 5 of us will research Dana's challenge. Dana wants to end extreme poverty. Let's help her. And everyone works on it. Another school that I worked with, they work in pairs. So they say, I'm going to research your challenge or you research mine. And why would they do that? It's actually because of pressure. A lot of students feel so much pressure around these issues that if they research it for someone else, they do it with no pressure. They just jump in. It's easy. They don't have their whole lives at stake. So that's another way to do this that you might want to steal from other educators who have done this. And then you can assess obstacles and wins along the way. What did they find easy? What did they find hard? So I like that idea. And there's another question here in your workbook that's about preparing students for the future of work. I've said a couple of things about this myself. I'm going to give you another minute for you to either capture what I've already said, if it's stuck with you. I want you to add your own ideas for why this helps with the future of work. And then I'd love for people to come back and again share in the chat what they answered for this specific question. So let's take another minute or two to let people answer this question. Why it's important to use the challenge mindset to prepare for the future of work? I love your answers coming in already. I'll give you another 30 seconds maybe to wrap up. And those of you who want to share with the group, please feel free to. Great, just to call out a few great answers. Shifting the way of the future to align strengths of our youth. I like the connection with strengths. It's about progress, not perfection, progress. I don't know if this is what you meant, Molly, but I think perfection means selecting the right job title. And I think that is such an unfair, inaccurate expectation to put on people to have the perfect answer for that, because they just don't know the world of work and it's going to change. So this is more about progress and steps. Carrie says, drive long-term purpose, keeping you engaged, fulfilled throughout your career. Yeah, because the truth is you change. You're actually going to change. You might need to change challenge you want to work on along the way. And that should be seen as a benefit. It's greater if teenagers are expecting to do that in their career instead of being surprised constantly that things are changing in their career. Purpose and direction. Increase their likelihood of enjoying, finding meaning in their post-secondary education, training, future careers. Hey, for some of your students going to community college or college, is such a huge jump. Even just graduating high school, what's the motivation? What's in it for them? This helps answer that. It explains, what they'll be able to do or get out of this. One of the schools that I work with, they actually chose to teach the challenge mindset first only to students who are struggling. They took the students that were failing, the ones that were not going to graduate, and they said, we want you to learn the challenge mindset. Tell us what you want. Tell us what you want to work on. They chose challenges. They built challenge profiles. And then once they were done, they gave them credits just for having done that. And they said, we're going to help you learn what you need to learn to work on your challenge, contribute more, and you're going to get credits for that. So, okay, you need this class, that class, this, you're going to do this extracurricular activity. So, they really took that challenge mindset approach and helped a group of people that really needed help. Adaptable approach builds critical thinking skills. You're right, there is a critical thinking skills component to this. Great, well said. Help students have a clear idea of future career, work responsibilities that align with them. So they're simultaneously looking inwards and outwards. The challenges I showed you, they're outward facing things, aren't they? They're real labor market information. But you're choosing them based on your values. So you're looking inside and outside at the same time. Being more invested in the constant change and evolution of themselves as humans. Humans are works of art that mistakenly think they're finished. That's a quote that I really like. There's a great TEDx talk it's called The End of History Illusion. And psychology studied that people chronically underestimate how much they change over their lives. And this is one way of gently introducing this idea to them. It's easy for us to look at the students that we work with and say, you're young, you will change. But the truth is that they will change as adults as well. And there's a body of evidence that really supports that. Carrie says, so that students are encouraged to think about what's most meaningful to them, purpose, broaden their horizons. That's a very popular phrase, Carrie, I hear a lot, broadening their horizons to find out new opportunities. That's really great. The chances they'll be happy fulfilled. Well done, great. I love the way you're all incorporating this and integrating it really quickly. So let's summarize what we've talked about so far. We're moving from a world where the job title mindset was dominant. In a job title mindset world, our jobs are to help students explore occupations. Here are the jobs available. We have to help them make a great decision. And success means commitment. I'm committed to one thing for the rest of my life. Literally, the assessment tools in the body of work of career development include decision-making certainty. Like decision-making certainty is a successful outcome of a career intervention. But what we're surfacing today is that this may not be true. If we're working in a world that's going to change, maybe we don't want that. The invitation today is to help students discover a challenge mindset so they explore challenges to solve. They learn career skills to help them contribute more. They can take those skills with them, carry them in different places, and success is ready to adapt. The opposite of the job title mindset, where it was commitment. And this is a very easy way for students to engage with a new way of looking at the world. Like, this is a slide for us, by the way, the experts. This is not a slide for students. Students, they don't even know the job title mindset, or they don't even know they're in it. They're stuck in it. So we got to get them out of it. So we talked about showing them what education is for. It's helping them contribute more to the challenges they care about. And that develops purpose. It could be different paths. It could be learning on the job, an apprenticeship, community college, 4-year college. You could do an advanced opportunities program. You guys have Gear Up, other special programs. These are all programs that can help students contribute more to the challenges they care about. And success. Well, what if we prepared an entire generation to work on our greatest challenges and opportunities? Think about all the human benefits this would bring, all the economic benefits it would bring. What if the first week of every class was spent finding real-world challenges to solve that are related to the topic? Students pick, this is what I value. And then looking at, well, which parts of the curriculum will help you do more of that? The message that students feel when they use the challenge mindset is that the world needs them. I know you work with students that don't know this yet or have never heard this. Imagine their pain, imagine what they're struggling with. But I believe in this, by the way. This is what drives me. I really think there are so many challenges, problems, and opportunities for them to work on. And when they feel that, not just hear it, like, you need to prove it to them, like show them real problems to work on. Once they feel it, then they have hope. Hope for their day, hope for their year, hope for their future. And that hope they can carry with them. And this idea of contributing to the world, one of my values is that everyone can contribute. And again, there are some students that doubt that. They're not sure. They think, I'm not succeeding academically, therefore I can't contribute to the world. Well, we want you to work hard and develop skills in the classroom and be successful, but you can contribute to the world. There is it if you recognize your skills. And I've already told you about the issues in equity and social justice, that if we don't take into account exposure bias and we simply have a student complete an interest inventory, an interest inventory, like the spirit behind that is tell me what you like based on what you already know. We don't want to double down on what students already know, especially students who haven't been exposed to very much. So in that way, if we do help broaden their horizons, we do great work in equity and in social justice. And, Heather's message is wonderful. Like, even in her book, she says, hearing about purpose is a window into our students. It's really valuable because you can use that, right? And we know that teachers want purposeful futures for their students because you get all these benefits, right? You're engaged today in your classroom. It prepares you for the future. And the truth is that students are already making meaning. They're already developing purpose on such a small scale, kind of haphazardly, accidentally. But what if we nurtured that? What's possible for them academically, in education and career? There's so much potential. I just heard her say quickly, Heather said, one student wanted to build a better prosthetic. That's a great challenge to solve. So let's go, let's start. Which companies are working on that now? Who works there? What did they learn to be able to do that? What project can you do in your classroom next week that will help you learn something about this issue? This is part of Heather's definition of purpose, right? You remember these components: meaningful intention, beyond the self-motivation, engagement. It's hard to show students beyond the self-motivation. And that's what was one of my drivers. Like, what is beyond the self? Like, what's out there? And that's why I created this tool called the challenge cards. really simple. It's a deck of cards that shows you problems to solve, right? And some students might want to protect biodiversity and landscape. Some students might want to learn how to communicate ideas and emotions. Some people want to reverse engineer the brain. There's so many problems to fix out there. And that set me on a journey, right, to get students to explore that, because I wanted it to be really easy to do, right? Do you want to help people reach their potential? No. Do you want to end extreme poverty? Yes. Here's my favorite challenge. Do you want to foster understanding and respect? Well, what is that? Well, you can learn more about that. What are the careers that helps you do that? I mean, there's so many different ways. In the real world, it takes an interdisciplinary approach to solve a problem, right? So this is why I ask students to build these challenge profiles, right? Like, because they get to see, well, let me go see like Headspace. This is an app on your phone. Who works at Headspace? Like, if you want to improve mental health, Headspace is a place that does that. But Headspace doesn't just have psychologists or meditation coaches. Headspace has software engineers. Headspace has user interface designers. Headspace has human resources officers, learning and development coordinators. How would students know this if they weren't doing this type of exploratory work? And so far, using this challenge mindset, we've helped over 25,000 students build, sort the challenge cards and get their challenge profiles to start building them. And one example I want to tell you about is at the University of South Florida. They use this with students who hadn't joined the university yet, like high school students and students who were undeclared. And they did a major expo. Can you imagine what a major expo would traditionally look like? Like the groups that are in the rooms, it's like a big room like yours, but the tables aren't in the middle. The tables are on the side, right? And you go to each booth, each table to see the majors like psychology, social studies. They wanted to change that. They said every student will choose challenges they want to work on first. And then once you show up, show us the challenges you want to work on first. And then we'll tell you how psychology will help you. We'll tell you how a business degree will help you protect society from crime. So they flipped it in that way, and they had a lot of success doing that. Another one is an employer fair. Instead of just having employers talk about what they do, this university linked challenges first. They said, okay, if you want to redesign the healthcare system, here are 5 employers that are coming to the fair that are doing that. So first, figure out the challenges you want to work on, then go see employers. So there was a quote that really inspired me to do this. And I want to share this quote and a little bit about my story, and then I'll hand it off to Brock and we'll do more of a Q&A for the rest of the time. But this quote really inspired me. It's from Jamie Cassatt. At the time, he was Google's global education evangelist. And he said, don't ask kids what they want to be when they grow up. Ask them what problems they want to solve and what they need to learn to be able to do that. You probably see the challenge mindset all over this, right? I was so excited when I read Jamie's quote. I went to students and I asked them, hey, what's the problem you want to solve? And they had no idea what to say, right? Like, no one's ever asked them that. We've never taught them to think about careers this way. But the hack is really simple. Like, all we need to do is show them, right? I showed Anna with a magazine. You can show your students tomorrow with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. You could show them with a news article, right? So I went out on this mission. I'm like, let me see what problems are out there. And I read books and lists and futurists and interviews. And I said, okay, let me condense that in a way that a student, like a young student, would understand. And I wrote this deck of cards, and these were my initial drawings, very basic stuff. Thankfully, I worked with a designer who made it pop and came to life. And I made some color categories like blue for health and pink for society, purple for technology. And that's how the challenge cards came to life. And I use these challenge cards to teach the challenge mindset, which is really an idea that anyone can use. It's accessible to anyone. So I wanted to stop here and ask you for your questions and your comments. I think we have another 15 minutes scheduled together. And I'd love to do some Q&As. I've got some questions for you if you don't have some for me, but I'm also going to ask you for your feedback on this session, what was useful to you. And as a thank you, I'm going to do a drawing. Like, I'd like to give you one of these decks of cards. I'll mail one to you if you're interested. And maybe some of you would rather have the digital version. I'll give you a month to use the digital version with your students, just as a thank you for showing up today, for contributing, for participation, and for filling out that little survey that tells me how to improve. So a big thank you to everyone for showing up and be willing to explore this idea called the challenge mindset. And thanks, Danielle, Jackie, and Brock, for the invitation. I feel really grateful to be part of this group.
Thank you, JP. Thank you for the information that you shared with us here this afternoon. Much appreciated. I wrote down a few ideas that you may have sparked. One of the things that came to mind was that all of our schools are required to have learning plans, and this may be some sort of function in that learning plan, for example. So there's so many different ideas that can come about from you, from what you were suggesting here today. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
If you have questions, please go ahead and submit those in the chat, and we will work to address those. I thought about if anyone had, again, the suggestions on how to find organizations and businesses in your community. I think that's a very important point that JP hit on. And if you have suggestions and strategies that you have utilized that work, please do share those with us. I think it would be helpful for others to see that.
Thank you, Brock.
Okay, so it looks like there is a question here. And Liz Clark wants to know the color combos of the cards. Is there any rhyme or reason to the colors of the cards?
Yes, I did originally have a bunch of like color links, green environment. And I should tell you, Liz, like, good job picking up on that, but that tends to be a distraction for students. So I just let them sort their little hearts out, and I don't even tell them about the colors unless they ask, but they are fun. It does make them more fun. I'm glad the designer made them work that way. Another question might be from Liz as well. What's the youngest age group you've done this with and had success? We currently have a province-wide implementation. You know, in Canada, we call it a province, right? Not a state, with New Brunswick on the East Coast. So they're doing this with middle schools, grades 6, 7, and 8. Why middle schools? Well, a lot of research says that by middle school, a student has already chosen, I'm a person who goes to college or I'm not. So whether we like it or not, these, you know, decisions are already partially being made, you know, at such a young age. And since the activity is so accessible, they've decided, let's do it. There may be words that the students don't know, don't understand, but because there are images on the front, we can help them, you know, use their intuition to highlight what they like, what they didn't like about the card. So I've seen it work. I would not recommend it for younger, you know, than grade 6. It's written at probably a grade 9 reading level. But because there are images, it has some flexibility. I should tell you that there are more colleges and community colleges that use it than high schools currently, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. And the reason that colleges use it is, if you can imagine a completely other side of the spectrum, is you want a job, you're applying for a specific opening, you're competing with 100 people. In your cover letter, in your research, you discover the challenges the company is trying to solve. In your cover letter, you explain your research. You might have done this online or talking to someone. So your cover letter explains, here are the problems you're trying to solve. And then you explain, here's how you're going to help. And then your resume is proof that you've solved similar problems before. That's using the challenge mindset to apply for a job. So that's one example of how colleges are using it. You might have students who are applying for co-ops. You know, it might not be a competitive process, but just showing that example might be useful for them. So it changes what they think about it in a cover letter, in a resume. That's how you would do it using the challenge mindset. Thanks, Carrie, for the positive feedback. Chelsea, do you feel like the online or actual cards are more effective in the entire classroom presentation activities? Okay, let's do pros and cons. Physical deck of cards, so fun, touching them, moving them. Of course, COVID concerns. But I got to tell you, the first day that I went to a classroom and you had 30 students looking down, no phones, no computers, exploring the world's greatest challenges. Oh man, that was a great feeling. Okay. So I love that. Right. And then you can play, you can invent games and share. And so that's good. Digital, students take 2 to 3 times longer to do the sort than physical. Why is that? It's literally you can click faster than you can move. The reason is that I didn't know this, but when you have a classroom set and everyone has a deck of cards, as soon as Eric finishes, everyone else is like, oh, okay, it's almost time to be done. I have to hurry up. Like there's some social pressure. So when you ask people to do it online, they tend to take longer. They read the back, it's pretty cool how they do it. So that's one of the pros of doing it digital. So your question, do you feel like online are more effective? So those are the pros and cons. I'll let you decide what works best. But the only reason we made a digital version is because everyone would say, I picked my top challenge card. Now what? This is the most popular card. Improve mental health. Okay, now what? Well, we spent a lot of time thinking about what should be in your challenge profile. And with the digital version, it gives you a challenge profile. It gives you activities and ideas on how to fill it out. Of course, you can replicate that on your own if you wanted to, but it was that ease of use. Like people were going for that ease of use, right? Carrie, I have freshmen take personality tests that lead to results for fitting careers. I would love to have them instead take some kind of online assessment that leads them to challenge instead of careers. Any plans to create something like this? That's what it is, right? That's what we have, Carrie, and put your name in the draw in that link that I sent you, and you might be the one that gets to use it. And that's the pivot that I'm seeing in colleges is they're going from a job title test to a challenge assessment, just for those reasons. I should tell you though that personality still counts. I'm not removing self-awareness from the process. You still need to discover your strengths, your skills, your values on how you contribute. I just don't believe in the predictive power of personality for job title matching. Put 10 nutritionists in a room and the diversity of their personality, I would argue, is a strength in their approach to nutritional interventions. I don't think there's one personality type that is best. What's the best nutritionist, an introvert or an extrovert? We could get into a good fight about that. I would just argue that, an introvert brings something special to the job and so does an extrovert. I would not eliminate a candidate based on their personality strictly alone. Carrie, yeah, you guessed correctly. Mitzi, recently had a student take ASVAB and said for the first time she was able to connect with what she wanted to do, change the foster system that she came from. Oh, that's cool. Wow, that's powerful. Let's see that example. And what the job would look like and what it is. It was a huge aha moment for her and amazing to watch it full. I have to look up ASVAB. I don't know if I know what it is, but that's wonderful that she was able to find a challenge that she wanted to work on. So thanks for sharing that example. And people's personal stories they really count, by the way. One of the career thought leaders that I look up to, his name is Mark Savikas. One of his quotes is, "You work to heal the hurt." It's pretty deep. But some people have patterns, like things that happen to them that inspire them. Sometimes it's not literal, by the way. It doesn't necessarily need to be like in your student's case. It's the same thing. Sometimes it's more of a pattern or a trend or something similar, right? Kaloni, how do we find the digital version for implementation to our schools after the month demo is over? Well, you can get it. I mean, my vision for that, Kaloni, is that you wouldn't even need to buy it. Like I'd love to partner with the Ministry of Education in Idaho and they just get it for everyone. That's my long-term vision. For now, you just buy a school subscription. But long-term, I'd love to work with states and then say to the state, like, remember those 6 Idaho companies I found? I'd put them right into the platform so you wouldn't have to. It'd be a bit easier for students to be able to do that. We could put people on the platform. That's my long-term vision, but short-term, you can just subscribe. We've got over 100 schools right now subscribe. Chelsea, with the online version, will we staff have access to later view the results of each student that engaged participates, or is it only viewable to the student? There's an admin account of where you see like who's done it. So good guess. Can you explain the difference between the challenge cards and the skill challenge cards? That's a historical difference, because I first wrote the challenge cards. There were 25 cards. That was 2017. I presented them in Orlando, Florida to the National Career Development Association. And as soon as I was done, I put them on a website and people started buying them. No ads, nothing. I didn't even know how people were finding out about it, just word of mouth. But I got some emails, some angry emails. You forgot this, you forgot that. And they were right. So I improved them, I changed them, I added things about the arts. And then I got a whole bunch of emails about skilled trades. And what people in education told me was that we've ignored this area for so long about skilled trades that it really needs to be highlighted. Great pay, great careers, not talked about enough. So I made another deck called the skilled trades. In the online version, they're just mixed in together. And when schools buy both decks, they just mix them together. Even one of our top universities in Canada, the University of Waterloo, they do the same thing. They bought both decks and they mix them together. And I called them and I said, why do you use the skilled trades cards? You don't even have skilled trades programs. And they had the best answer. They said, well, if a student is here with us and they should be in the skilled trades, we'd rather them know the truth, which I thought was like a high integrity move from them, to do it. So somebody got a thumbs up. I'll mix them together. Yeah, the person guessed it. Yes, thumbs up to them because they guessed mixing them together. Hey, Brock, I can't run over my time because you might yell at me. If you yell at me, might get upset. I want to avoid this. I've got 30 seconds left. What else was I supposed to say today, Brock, that I haven't said yet?
So not only can you win the challenge cards from filling out that survey, but we also have those at the various host sites, and we also have those for the various contests that we're doing. Hence, those on the leaderboard are also in the running for those cards as well.
Goodness, now I know why they're so motivated. Just kidding. Love it. You guys have prizes. That's great.
JP, the last thing that I think I would just say as a group on this topic is this is not something that falls solely on your hands. This is something as a system that we are looking at, and it's something that you can encourage your colleagues to share in this idea and what you have heard here today, because that we interact with students in all different levels, and it's something that I think can be thought-provoking and can pause someone in their steps. And so this is a shared experience and something that I would encourage you to share with your colleagues who aren't here today.
I love it, Brock, because they'll get it. Teachers will get this, even though they don't have the same training that you do. They'll get it. They'll get the challenge face-off. They're looking for ways to engage students. They want the math teacher that wants to prove how valuable math is, and you can help them do that now with this really accessible language.
So thank you, JP. Our time is done here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate your efforts that you've put into this. The playbook will be our next activity at 2:30 if you're joining the virtual group. We have, like I said, it's a group activity. And so we have some ways that you can practice what you've heard here so that you feel confident in how to approach this, so that if you want to work with students, you have that ability. JP probably will hang on the call here for another few minutes if you have any additional questions for him. But for that being said, we had a 15-minute break. Thanks again, and good luck out there.
Thanks, everybody. If I missed your question, feel free to email me and we'll chat. But thanks a lot for your participation. I love the energy and all the messages in the chat. It was awesome. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
So can we still ask you a question?
Yeah, I think so, Chelsea. I'm just watching.
Go ahead.
Brock can tell me when
Thanks,
we're just
Brock.
lingering on here now. Yeah.
So I was just curious because I actually won some of your stuff at one of our last year conferences. So
lucky.
I haven't got a chance to use it yet, but I'm planning to. I was just curious with the journal, if we got the online version, would there still be benefit in getting this, or is that incorporated in the online version as well?
We don't have that in the online version yet. The
Okay.
journal you're looking at helps students craft their stories.
Okay.
So that's still separate. Yep.
So that could be like a whole separate piece to it. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chelsea.
And yes, noted in the chat, if you were to share this information with the colleagues and they wanted a short snippet video that's really well done, JP gave a TED Talk, and that link is in the playbook, so you can use that as a reference to help context with your information that you're sharing.
Hey, Brock, are you still there?
Hi, Natalie.
Hi. Where is it in? I'm just on my laptop at home, so trying to go back and forth. Where's
It
the
is
playbook?
on the playbook is in the documents section. So it might be under resources if you're using the web application.
Oh, there it is. Okay, there's resources and
And
documents.
we can put the YouTube clip in the chat here for you as well if you're looking for the YouTube video.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.